I'm Cam McClellan.
Hey guys, Al Lewison.
We're from OpenCorp. OpenCorp's like a PT for property investors or wannabe property investors. So we help people organise their mortgage, find and secure the best investment for them and manage their portfolio so we get a financial outcome for people that otherwise they wouldn't have. We're here with Danny. Welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast.
Welcome to the Fitness and Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Kennedy, and I'm here to help you become the very best version of yourself. Fellas, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you back on. It's been a little while now, but we had some really good feedback from our first episode, so I was excited to have you back in. But how you both been?
Yeah, good mate. We had a ball doing it last time, so we're looking forward to it today too.
Yeah, it's good.
Brilliant.
I think it was the C word, wasn't it, when we were talking about last time, like right in the middle of COVID. So
Yeah. Good to have you here in the flesh now.
What you're talking about?
Yeah, really started
But Danny's not that bad a guy. He's all right.
Cheers, man.
You mentioned in the intro, and we were chatting before you hit record about how what you guys do is almost like similar to myself in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And how we talked about the importance of like systems and having a lot of clarity and also the mindset side of things with property, which probably gets overlooked. For someone that's listening at the moment who's not in the property market yet, firstly, are you guys able to give us a bit of a debrief on what you guys actually do and how you can really help someone in that position, including someone like myself who's still not in the market? I think for the audience, to be able to take some value away today with just having a lot more clarity and a bit of direction will be a big help.
I'll give you a bit of example about why I started using a PT. I'd started investing in property early when I was about 20 years old, had some wins, and by my late 20s, I'd realised I was turning a bit of a fat prick and should have been doing some more.
In the investing space, you mean?
No, this is just
you're actually a fat prick.
my fitness journey. And Cam and I are actually offshore on a junket, let's call it. And I remember sitting in the resort pool and I said, mate, I've got to do something about this. And I said, you know what? I've fluffed around in the gym for 12 months. The people who do really well and get good results, they're going to pay a trainer. I think I referenced Brad Pitt and I went, look at Brad in his movie. He's not doing it by himself. He's got some help to get him there. And as I've thought about it in the last sort of week leading up to this, exactly like what we do, we sort of say to people, you can go and do it yourself. You might get it right, you might not. We're experts. We've got systems, processes, structures. And
Just remove the guesswork.
Remove the guesswork and pretty much ensure you're going to get the outcome that you want to be getting.
100%.
It used to amaze me when I look back, we were in our early 20s and we're lucky we had Al's old man grab us by the scruff of the neck and teach us the basics about investing. But it used to baffle me why people would make the biggest investment choice of their life and not follow a process. So it's like driving a car blindfolded. You just go, it's going to be a disaster. There's absolutely no way out of it. So we're really good at business. We create set processes which give a measured outcome, which is the same as you. When you want to train someone, you have a set process with their diet and their regime and you hold them accountable to it.
Yeah.
So we set up very similar with property investing. So there's different points in risk all along the way. So whether it's the finance structure, there's 10.6 million properties in Australia. We wanted a way to find the best property in investment at any point in time, regardless of market cycle. And you can't get property A and match it with property B and then go through that, match it with property C for 10.6 million times. So we created a process of elimination. So we knock out capital city markets that are not good for investment. Then we find growth corridors within those cities that are good, which is limited land supply, but really good, strong population growth forecast.
Yep.
And then we find the best investment for that specific area. And we do that individually for clients. We've been doing it for 19 years now, nearly 20 years. And our acquisition team, they spend just under 20,000 hours a year analysing each of those cities. So we've got about 80 team members.
Yeah, right.
But our portfolio management team are like the PTs. They hold our clients accountable for their goals, what they want to achieve over a set time frame, and it's monitor their budgets, make sure they're on track, their lifestyle's changing. So, I couldn't assimilate it more to a PT, actually, when you're right, it does. It just fits in really well.
When you step into, like if I'm to step into the shoes of someone who is at that point, like let's say when you compare it to body composition, they're trying to get in shape, they're just fucking throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks and trying to get this outcome. In the property market, you almost feel like people don't even get to that stage, right? If I, use myself as an example, maybe not as much now, but a few years ago, even just the thought of trying to get into the property market was just too hard basket. I've got no fucking idea where to start. Yeah. And so then you just don't. Yeah. Right. And in comparison to fitness, where someone's probably just going to try anything and everything they can. Yeah. Obviously slightly different. And so in those early stages, like when I look at changing someone's body composition, you have obviously your nutrition, your training, your recovery and everything. But when you peel the layers back, a lot of it stems from insecurities, limiting beliefs, their habits. And you mentioned process of elimination. I think that's a really important one. A lot of the time it's not about adding shit in. It's about actually removing the stuff that's blocking you from getting there.
Yeah.
And so for someone in that position who is just completely lost, has no idea where to start and feels like it's just out of reach.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that someone like that can be focusing on, and what are the things that you guys work through with them to actually give that bit of peace of mind and some actual direction of what needs to happen?
Yeah, when we first sit down with someone, we create a roadmap. So simply yourself, create a plan for someone. What amount of time do you want, and what do you want to achieve in that amount of time? And then we work backwards. Usually people are starting out whether they've got a deposit together. If they haven't, we work through budgeting with them. And really, people spend the maximum amount that they earn. That's just the way Australians are, do you know what I mean? So that's saving. So having someone regulate you to hold you accountable to get your budget or deposit together in a specific set point in time. If people have got their own home, then we teach them the basics about investing. Or we were talking before, before we came on, and there's that question of what the fuck are all these acronyms mean? What does all this shit mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many words and terminology and white noise in the property investment space. Same like in the fitness space. There's just huge amounts of information coming at people all the time. So we teach them how to block out that, how to decipher all the information and lock it down to that set plan to get there. So if we break it down into core components, there's creating a budget, getting your deposit together. Then there's finance, understanding finance and the way the banks work. Then there's a set process for finding the best investment every time. There's a process for managing your property, and then there's a process for duplicating your portfolio and getting to your end goal within that set time frame. So, like you said, by breaking it down and allowing people to see a set roadmap, then it allows them to block out the white noise. They can go on, enjoy their daily life and enjoy their kids or family life and time, knowing that they're getting towards their goal.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got that overwhelming thing of going, I've got to do something financially, and it's always grinding away in the back of your head.
Of course.
Same as fitness. Do you know what I mean? I should be doing a workout. I should be eating better. And, so it's just holding someone accountable and getting them to their end goal. So.
And I think a little bit, if we use the fitness and nutrition element you've talked about, and someone doesn't know their BMI, doesn't know calories they should be doing to sort of cut or increase their strength or whatever it might be, they just do biceps in the gym and they're expecting why aren't I getting a result here? As Cam said, a lot of our clients, and part of the journey is that duplication piece, because let's be really frank, one investment property is not going to change your life forever, but getting a process and a system right, as you get 3 or 4 or 5 of them, that ultimately absolutely changes your life for the rest of your life. But you've got to get the recipe right, and you've got to get it right up front. And I guess that's the value of someone like us. You come and say, like, here's, as Cam said, here's our timeline, here's what we want to do. We'll get the plan in place to help you do it, but don't go to the gym and do your biceps and keep eating hamburgers for dinner, because you won't get the result you want in the gym either.
Yeah, I reckon if like when we looked about and what we do with clients is find out, I think this is probably the core that you were talking about before, is there's an underlying reason why people don't succeed, or why they don't hit the fitness levels they want. If rubber bands gave us capital growth and rental yield like property does, like I'd be an expert at rubber bands.
And
do you know what I mean?
Savings and
do you know what I mean? But like property is just a means to an end. People say you must love property. I don't care about property. But it gives me an outcome which allows me. And I came from a really poor background. You know, we lived in a tin shed, and Mum argued over milk or bread because they couldn't afford both. So I had that light bulb moment really early in life, like when I was 14, going, I've got to do something different to the average Australian because I'm already poor and I don't like being poor. So I already had that light bulb. Most people get it in their 30s or their 40s or 50s and go, shit, I should do something now.
But the point is everyone gets it.
That's
90%
right.
of people get it at some point, somewhere they're 70.
Yeah, that's right.
Late, but hopefully you get it a bit earlier.
Yeah, that's right. And like you said, people have that underlying reason why they don't succeed. It's because the way we are in our society is just bashed into us. Just, go to school, get a job, plug along, retire poor, and just, the cycle. And anyone who tries to do anything, Australia, we don't like tall poppies. I get it. Do you know what I mean? But like the Americans, they love the tall poppies. Like, go for it, succeed. They promote that.
No bad ideas,
Yeah. I mean, we try not to big note because, it's just the Australian way. You get your head chopped off. So with our clients, a lot of our clients are really personal and they're protective about what they're trying to achieve, even to their families and that sort of thing, because they know that, they'll get their head knocked off. But they've got that self-limiting belief. And I think that's the biggest thing you need to overcome with people, to really get them to understand what they can do and it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, what you're saying there is probably being able to paint someone the picture of the pros and cons of making either decision, right? Because as I said before, when you're overwhelmed and you don't even really understand what you're potentially missing out on or what needs to be done to get there, you just kind of just push to the side and just forget about it. But for those that are listening or watching at the moment, that because I'm assuming your clientele, you'd have quite a wide range of income levels too.
Yeah, very much so.
And so I would imagine the mindset for a lot of people that may be in slightly a lower income level, even though, as you mentioned, most people kind of, whatever they're making, basically spend the upper amount of it anyway.
That's the way it goes,
And so it probably wouldn't really make much of a difference whether if someone's at a really high income or low income, if they don't know what to do, the result's probably the same. But if someone is in that lower income bracket, like, is the process for them vastly different to someone who is making a significantly more amount of money?
Yeah, it's very different. We deal with, there's probably 4 ranges of clients that we deal with. So sort of like the family unit, mums and dads just had a new family and realised I've got kids, responsibilities now, I better do something. Usually 1.5 incomes, but decide they want to get into the investment. They might have their own home. The income bracket that I think you're talking about, there's a lot of young people we deal with who are starting their careers off, but they're living in a really cool suburb, which Felicity, my wife, and I did when we were younger. We live in Elwood, Bayside in Melbourne, but we bought properties in the outer suburbs of Melbourne. You know what I mean? We couldn't afford to buy the property that we loved around that area. So it was a smarter investment choice to rent vest is the term, basically. So rent where you want to live, enjoy that lifestyle, and build a property portfolio. So that's what we help a lot of clients with, whether they're buying in the outer suburbs of the city they live in or another capital city to buy a lower price point but still get that strong growth. The above 50s club, there's a few, we call them, the 50s and over club, people who realise they're at the end of their life and they've got to do something fast to get their retirement together. But the main bracket of people we deal with are that probably the time poor exec or professional athletes. So we deal with, like as you said before, Creaky, Mitch Creek's one of our clients who he lets me talk openly about, his investment journey with us. But we've got NBA players, NBL players, heaps of AFL players, surfers, jockeys. So we deal with that group of clientele very differently. They've got contracts that they have to achieve something within the contract time frame and set themselves up with a portfolio that holds its own at the end of their contract. So to answer your question, we deal with every set of clients very differently and we customise their plan based on their circumstance.
But it's certainly, as we said at the start, both of us were investing in early 20s. I think I just turned 20 when I bought my first investment property, and it was an investment property. So I mean, I think you said your audience is probably 25 to 40-year-olds, and a massive range of our clients are in that space. Harder earlier in the journey, but the important part for people at the early phase of it is, one, understanding what the whole future looks like if you don't do anything. And to me, inaction's more scary than action, because you hear these horror stories about people on a pension who are eating soup every night because that's all they can afford. That's pretty frightening to me.
Of course.
But the important part for them really early is understanding there's a problem if you don't do something about it. Educate yourself so you're a little bit comfortable with the risks. Start talking to groups like us about what you want to do and get on a plan to start getting your deposit together, because you only ever save one deposit in the process, the model that we roll out for people. You buy one house, that's the hardest one, the deposit you've got. The growth in your property's value thereafter is the future purchases. So
using the equity.
Use the equity, spot on. It's the first deposit. Beg, borrow, steal, do what you need to do to get it. And you're in the market and you're away. That's the most important thing, someone right at the very start.
Don't steal too much, but just a little. No, but you're right, getting it together. But people should be more fearful of not investing than they are investing. What life's going to be like if they don't invest.
I was going to say that again, very similar to the
I don't mind a Vegemite sandwich, but every night I don't see that appealing, to be honest.
No, I don't think so. But I was just going to say, like, even if I'm talking to a potential client in the fitness space, a big part of the sell is like, okay, what if you don't take action? Let's have a look 12 months from now doing exactly what you're doing now. How does it look, and how do you reckon you'd feel if you're still in that position then? And that a lot of the time,
it's enough.
Like really spotlighting the pain point is enough to get them to actually start taking action. And I'm assuming very much similar with the property space.
I was just going to ask you one. So probably, and there's another similarity here, that once they start on the journey, your first PT session's the hardest session of your entire life. Like you go and lay on the couch afterwards and say, I'm not going back. And eventually you get back into it. Like, so there's a bit of a journey for your clients. So what does that look like to them? Like, because I'll tell you some
definitely. It's, you know, and I have that conversation with everyone. You make sure they're under no illusion that the start's going to be difficult because, you know, I say this on the podcast all the time, like to create change in any area of life, there has to be resistance, discomfort, and something that's unfamiliar. Otherwise, it's going to be the same shit over and over again.
Absolutely.
And so that initial stage is always going to feel uncomfortable. But the problem is, majority of people, once they feel the discomfort, it's like, let's retreat back to what feels familiar and safe. But if you do that, nothing changes. And so it's all about just getting to that point where these things become non-negotiables and they become part of who you are, which then doesn't require discipline. And you save all this time and energy, even just with what we touched on before. You're not negotiating with yourself anymore about whether or not you're going to follow through because it's part of who you are. And so I was interested to try and tie this back with you guys actually. But one of the things that I found really effective is getting people to look at, okay, what does the end goal look like? And how would it feel? And let's get really clear on that. Now, instead of thinking about let's do this, and this to get that, if you had it now, what would your life have to look like in order to maintain it? And that's typically a really good way to get people to lock in and just embody that version of themselves to maintain the outcome. And so I think it'd have to be pretty similar with the property, like even, you know, touching on what you said before around the hardest one is the first bit.
That's right.
Just like anything else. It's like the first is always going to be hard. And I think it's also, I don't know whether you guys agree, but I always talk about broadening the time horizon of when you expect it to be comfortable by. And so then you're under no illusion that it's going to be like a walk in the park at the beginning, but inevitably it's going to be. And you just have to get through that initial pain point at the start.
Yeah, we do that roadmap I talked about with is basically setting out. And so someone says, all right, look, I want 10 years and I need X amount of money. So we'll work out and look at their current income and work out where they're going to be and what life looks like in 10 years if they do nothing. So we look at that first. And usually the higher income ones really freak out at this because when they want to retire and spend at a higher amount. So choose their super up way faster. So people go through life in massive careers and usually end up having the biggest shock when it comes to the retirement area because they spend at the same rate. So we look at that first and then go back, and a lot of our clients will go, well, they might say we want 4 properties in 8 years. And we work out, well, that's achievable based on your lifestyle and it's not going to impact your spending and, your lifestyle is still going to be good. And we work out the holding costs and do all the taxation parts for it. So they've got that set plan. And once they've done the first one, we do a review every 6 months with each client. When they've done that first one, the first 6 months come around and usually they'll go, actually, I want 5 properties in 6 years, So once they've gone through the first one, they get more aggressive on what they want to achieve, which is really cool to see.
Unreal. And so for someone that's coming in who's just completely oblivious to all of it, obviously you guys, the service you provide does a lot of the work for them, which is probably obviously one of the more appealing parts of it. How much education for the buyer, or like how much should I want to actually understand the process, even though I'm being guided by you guys throughout it?
Yeah, we make sure that you understand enough of the process that you're comfortable. So we've got clients who want different levels of understanding. And usually through the first one, as Al said, once you've gone through the first property, that's usually where a lot of the education, we spend a lot of our time with you. And after you've gone through the first one, you've got an understanding of it. And usually it's just like, tick the box after that and get me another one. We set the business model up 20 years ago based on my little brother. Actually, he worked offshore, 4 kids. He'd come back home and his wife would hand him the 4 kids and go, you've been away, so you're dealing with it. So he wanted to invest but had no time. And his wife, Alana, was like, really fearful. She was, cautious of investing and scared about the whole amount of debt and all that sort of thing. So we created the process which basically from start to end, some people you can be as evolved as you want, and so you can just say, go for it, I want a property portfolio, and we do everything. So we'll deal with the banks, we'll find the property, organise the tenant, manage the property, manage the portfolio, tell you when to duplicate again. Or you can get as involved as you want with that education process, and we can step you through and make sure you understand everything about the property and the process and the property industry and like I said, people take on different amounts of education. Same with yourself with training. You'll get some clients who get really good outcomes, but just follow your guidance, without questioning it. And other people will go deep into nutrition with you and those sort of things. Similar.
For sure. if you don't mind me asking, like, what is that process from your side of things? Like, just so the listeners can get some insight into what actually goes into finding the right spot in terms of like the location, obviously the price point, and all the other all the other variables that someone who's not in the market yet probably wouldn't put thought to.
This sort of research piece you touched on before. That we mean? Like the
Yeah.
whole research in the background,
Yeah, so if you look at when most people buy property, so property works in cycles. So each capital city moves at different cycles. And I'll try not to go too property nerd for you here. Do you know what I mean?
You can go as nerd as you want.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, if you think of most property cycles, I want to point out the danger time where most people get burnt with investing. So during a property cycle, and the term hotspots is really like, if you hear hotspots, just think, if someone's talking about a hotspot, you're about to get burnt. So equate hot to burn, yeah? The reason for that is because an area, say early COVID, we were putting heaps of clients across into Perth. All the clients had purchased in Melbourne and Brisbane, for example, or Sydney, and Perth wasn't on the radar of anywhere. Now, Perth's had sort of 400K uplift since then. Our clients have done really well. But now Perth's a hotspot at the moment. So what happens is at the start of a cycle, so we'll get our clients to buy what's counter-cyclical. So they'll buy the opposite of basically what the media are saying. So we'll look at capital cities before they've gone up in value. Then, so Perth's a great example. That went up in value. It takes about 12 months or so of the prices to increase before the media get onto it. Then it's about another 12 months of the media talking it up. And then the property, the sharks, talk about hotspots, and that sort of starts getting out. The average investor, they need confidence to go and make that first step. So the only thing they've got is the media. So they'll look at the media, and after 12 months of good news articles about a specific area, and then this term hotspots comes out, they'll go and buy in it. But after every growth cycle of growth, you usually get a correction. So you might get 30-40% growth, and then 5 to 10% correction where it comes down and just corrects. Now, Perth's still got a little bit to go in it, do you know what I mean? But it will correct at some point. The issue is when you're a first-time rookie investor just going, following the newspapers, is you go and buy at that point in the market, and then the first impact you have of your property investing career is the market pulls back a bit. So you've got a shit experience to start off with, which is why usually people get one investment. So, as I said before, the process of elimination, we'll look at capital cities that have had that growth and which is the next capital city that's poised for growth. And we've got thousands of data points. We've got an analytics team. This is their real propeller heads, like, data scientists and analysts. And all they do is analyse each capital city market, the growth corridors, and then find that property. And we go through that. We're open with our clients about exactly what happens, the checklists that we go through, the research reports. And we match not only property data with economic data. So we look at what the economy's doing, what the population growth is. So there's a bucket load of different points, which has allowed us. I think so. We've got an Australian Financial Services license. So we part of our Australian Financial Services license submit every one of our clients' results to ASIC. And we get that verified and published by ASIC in one of our product disclosure statements. So over the last, since we've been in inception, we've beaten the market consistently. Around the market it's close to it, 26.8%, I think it is. So on average, I know the dollar figures. On average, our clients have beaten the 8 capital city markets by $256,000.
Right.
So on top of the normal growth they've got, they've made another $256,000 on average. But that's allowed our clients to buy 1 or 2 more properties faster than the average person. So our clients can get involved with the data sets and work with our analysts as much as they want to get comfort in it. Some clients are really analytical. Some just want a hands-off sort of approach. But, there's method in the madness as to why we've been able to beat the market. But, to go back to the basics of the danger time, if someone's mentioning hotspots, then just sort of back away.
Hot burn.
Hot burn. There you go.
And so is what you guys do, just so I can clarify,
cool.
is majority of it or all of it just based off the investment properties? Or are you recommending, because, I heard for years and years and years, and I know absolutely fuck all about property.
No, that's cool.
But I heard for years and years about you're better off buying where you live so then you're not wasting your money on rent, blah, blah, blah. Whereas I've always done the opposite. Well, as I said, not in the market, but kind of rent where I actually do want to live. And so is that something that can be sustained over a long period of time, or is there a point where you should be in a place that you've actually bought?
No, absolutely. Starting your journey, is what you've just said. Like we absolutely encourage people, especially in that bracket of 25 to 40 that we talked about. Live where you want to live. Let's live here. Let's live in South Yarra. Buy a property where it makes sense.
Yeah.
There's multiple reasons for that. You buy a brand new property, better tax advantages, better rents, better yields, less money out of your own pocket, more growth, all those sort of things.
Yep.
But you don't just want to go and live in those areas because you want to be enjoying the lifestyle when you're young. So go and do that. A lot of our close friends who got on the journey of what we're doing, all set themselves up that way. And then when it's time, you go, great, want to get my family home, want to settle down, want to do it. Well, then you've got money behind you to go and do it. You'll probably buy a slightly better house than you would have. And
you've got equity to use from the other one.
You've got some equity to use. You might sell, you might draw down, whatever it might be, but you can go and buy, a different type of house than if you're just starting out. And part of that as well, it's almost forced savings because, as you both talked about, everyone spends every cent they earn. If you haven't got it going to invest in property, well, you just piss it against the wall.
Yeah.
So when the time comes, you still got nothing anyway. Get in the market, let the market growth take care of itself. You've got something there when it's time to live where you want to live.
Is there a point where, like, let's say one of these areas is starting to crash a little bit? Is it always a hold? As in, like, once you've got the property, you just hold no matter what the market's doing? Or is there any points where you're like, all right, now's probably a good time to get rid of it?
Yeah, with the properties we've purchased, we've gone through with clients who have their own portfolio already. And occasionally, if they're holding an absolute dog, we'll work out the mathematical equation for it and go, this is the tax you pay. And you can use what's left over for a deposit in an area that's going to go up in value. Our team only buy in what's called infill areas, so areas with limited land supply.
Okay.
And we then work with the local and state governments and look at the amount of population growth. So we look at the budgeted infrastructure that's going into that area, so roads, rail, all those sort of things. So that's our crystal ball.
Yeah.
So we're not finger in the wind. So we're looking at the amount of limited land supply with the amount of population growth, so we know that over time, it's going to continually go up in value.
Yep.
So while a capital city overall might dip, we're buying at a price point just below the median house price in capital cities. So we haven't had areas that drop off in value, and there will be at some point in time. Do you know what I mean? So you don't get it all perfect, but the areas have such limited land supply, the population growth forecast will continue to rise over the long term. The majority of clients, they just want, they might have their own home. And instead of paying it off over 30 years, we can work with them on a strategy to chop that into 10 years.
Yep.
So, and it's pretty simple. They might only buy 2 investment properties, let those double in value, sell them, pay the tax, and wipe out their home debt. So everyone's got their own goals that they want to achieve. But that's that's the first one. I think most people just want to get their head around. How do I chop off 20 years of my mortgage? I mean, if you can save 20 years of working, it's just like it's a no-brainer.
You might have sort of been angling towards this before, but so in terms of our process, people will inquire with us. They might see us on this podcast, think, I want to know more about it. The first part we try and do is get them some information so that they've got a bit of a ground of knowledge. Like Cam's written a book, My 4-Year-Old, The Property Investor.
Yeah, I've got that at home.
Great head start for people because it really does spell out the recipe almost.
Yeah.
The extension of that is we'll do it for you.
Yeah.
And then if you say, yes, I want you to, or maybe I want you to do it for us, then it's a series of appointments. First one is full education about a bit deeper in what's in the book and what are your goals, and here's a plan, and here's what it might look like.
Yep.
And then we move into finance, what's the best way to structure it. And then it's the bits Cam said at the end, and the final piece of the puzzle is here's a property, here's why we like it, here's all the data that support it. That's information. But the final piece of that is we've got some software that does a 10-year plan. Go, our estimate on your property over 10 years looks like this, holding costs, growth, there's your return on it. Slot some more in along the way, and that's what you'll have. So the full service is all of that. And like Cam said, some people are analytical, like crazy, and want to know everything. Others are a bit of set and forget, but important for us, they do have a base of knowledge that we've worked them through on the way.
We've got a couple of our really analytical clients. We've got a number who are share analysts at JP Morgan. So they analyse share portfolios and sell those analysis to the superannuation funds. Okay. So you can imagine those guys when they start drilling us about our property strategy. They're the most challenging clients come across. But once they trust you, they just go for it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
And I've had a few mates, a few really good friends of mine, buy property through you guys, and one of the things that I really liked, and I'll get you guys to touch on it a bit more, is once they've got the property, an investment property, you guys aid in getting tenants in there as well?
Yeah, so we've got our own property management team Australia-wide. We've got property managers in every capital city and in the areas that we recommend for clients. So we find and manage the tenant. The difference with our property managers over normal property managers, the easiest way for a standard property manager, from around the corner, for their job to be easy, when a tenant asks for something, they just get the landlord to pay for it. Mm-hmm. The way we approach it is that we're working for the landlord, and we've got to look after our tenants, don't get me wrong, but making sure that you're getting the maximum rent for the area, you're minimising the cost to hold that property means that our clients get more money in their back pocket and can then duplicate, or their lifestyle's better.
Yep.
So managing the properties is one part of it, but then looking at the portfolio overall and getting so we'll get regular valuations on it, make sure recommend the rent they're getting. Because the two things that allow
guarantee
you to duplicate.
the rent they're getting. So a bit of money where your mouth is stuff like we're suggesting a property and your rent, and if you don't get it, we'll step in and make sure you get it. So
right.
We're making sure we get it right.
Yeah, beautiful.
The two factors that stop or start you duplicating or growing your portfolio is the amount of income you got and the amount of cash you got, or equity, which is the growth or the profit in the property going up in value, which you can take out for your next deposit.
Yep.
So the faster you can get growth in your property, the faster you buy again. So our business model is pretty cool because it's win-win. Do you know what I mean? The faster our clients achieve their goals, the faster they buy again, and then we get paid again.
Of course.
So it's a very aligned business model.
Yeah, definitely. You obviously mentioned before the media and how big of a role that probably plays for people who don't have as much education around it.
Yeah.
I would say obviously over the last year or two, or maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It seems like from the outside in that it's tough in the property market at the moment. Is that the case? And if so, does it look like that'll change anytime soon?
It's tough to get into the property market. It's only getting tougher. You mentioned the media, and we were talking before, so I'm a regular on the Today Show in the morning with Carl and Sarah, and I was on with Chervo and Nat the other day on Sunrise, and the main thing, you got 3 minutes to get across a specific lesson, you know what I mean? They drill you pretty hard. So you got to get your messaging right, but they're constantly just fending off what the media is saying. The reality is, at the moment, property is as cheap as it's ever going to be in Australia. So we've got a massive housing shortage at the moment in Australia. We're building, so to nerd up again, the 10-year average on building approvals, we're at 27% lower than the 10-year average. Okay. So people say there's a housing crisis at the moment, and we deal with homeless youth, the Property Investment Foundation. We do a lot with homeless youth. So this is probably close to my heart, seeing I was young and out of home early on. There's a massive housing crisis in Australia at the moment, so we're not building enough to meet the current demand. But the government's got this shitload of debt, obviously, after COVID. Yeah? The only way they're going to pay back that debt is by growing the economy. The only way to grow the economy is to get our population growth up. So we're in this conundrum where we're not building enough homes for the current amount of Australians, but we're having huge population growth come into Australia. So the housing crisis is only going to get worse as far as the amount of supply goes. Now, for investors, that's great because it pushes prices up. But for the average Australian trying to get into the market, and rents go up.
Rents,
but it does make it harder for people to get into the property market. So if anyone can scrape together a deposit, the faster you can do it, the better. Yeah,
faster the better. With the budgeting side of things, that early in the process when you're starting to get your deposit together, what are some of the common things that, or I guess problems and solutions that you see with some of your regular customers or clients in terms of not having much of a plan or any awareness around the budgeting, and then the things that become really effective and actually quite sustainable for people regardless of what income level they're at?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. All right, so this is a challenge. And we do a lot of basic money talks. I do talks out at secondary school for kids. I just do a Money Smarts course for year 11, 12 kids who are going into the real world outside of mum and dad world. The scary thing is that those kids going out into the real world have got, and this is no disrespect to your listeners, you know what I mean, but most people have still got that level of money management skills, you know what I mean, or knowledge. People just don't manage their money at all. It's just money comes in, money goes out. I pay some bills. We'll see what's left at the end of the day. Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. So getting people to understand a basic budget and to stick by it, but I did one with my daughter the other day, so I challenged her for 3 months not to buy anything off the internet. I said, do no online shopping and see what your bank account looks like. So basic things like that where, it's just clicking now. Everything's now. Yeah. So smacking out, getting rid of all online shopping is a big one. If you really need it, go and get it. You know what I mean? And people will save an absolute ton. Uber Eats, fast food.
Uber Eats, I was just about to say that.
It smashes you. So have a look at, and here's a really simple one. So we get a lot of young people and young males listen to this. You probably have a few young males. when you go for a loan from the bank goes through 3 months of statements. So my point is to manage money, first of all, go through your own statement for 3 months and have a look at everything and just circle in there all the crap that you shouldn't have bought and add that up. Streaming, how many streaming apps have you got?
How many sports bet deposits have you made? Yeah.
But stupid young males, if you're going for a loan, make sure that you, if you get money put into your account by your mates, knowing that the banks are going to look at your statements, don't have your mates joke in there and put strippers on the the description when you have money going to your account, because the banks don't like that. No, that's right. Yeah, it's just morally stay good. So, but anyway, a few money management tips, the basics one. But they're the sort of like the basic lessons we go. Use a debit card, not a credit card. Don't use Afterpay. Afterpay is going to get recorded as a loan on your credit record soon. So if you're using Afterpay and those sort of things, then the banks had credit cards, so when they couldn't get enough money out of people for normal loans, they sent their marketing department down into the dungeon and they said, come back and give us a tool which would take the most amount of money out of people's back pocket in the shortest time possible. They came up with a credit card. And then people wised up to it and stopped using them a bit, so they created these point systems on credit cards to get you to kick in and use them again. And then they went up. People are sort of wising up. They're using more debit cards. So now Afterpay and ZipPay and those sort of things have come in. So people just need to use a debit card. If the money's not in your bank account, don't spend it.
I think a simple term that we use in the office is that people think they've got a money problem. Typically, they've got a spending problem.
Yeah.
So if you go, like Cam said, all those things there, go and look at what you're spending your money on. And a big part of that's getting your budget. Like if you actually sit down and go, right, I'm going to live off this much, not this much. You're amazed that you can do it. You might shop at Aldi instead of Woolies, or you might not eat at a restaurant 2 times a week, might be once a week, or whatever it is. Might take your lunch to work, don't buy it. Whatever your solution is to get to your budget, we find people can get there. Awareness is the first part of your problem. And then once you're aware that that's a spending, not a money problem, well, then you can probably get on top of it. But people need to go, what's my journey look like? What's the deposit I need? Another part we see is, as you probably alluded to, we've got to get a deposit. The second way people are doing it more and more now is brothers, close mates, whatever, get together, pool for a deposit. Sometimes they've got parents who are saying, look, I can see the virtue and value in what you're doing. I'll help you with the deposit. It gets them in the market. And then as the market's growing by, that 400 grand Cam talked about interstate, you're using that, you're collecting that 400 grand. You're not making your deposit further out of reach. You're in the market, you're growing with it. Number two's on the way.
Budget's probably like a similar word to diet. Like it's a real negative connotation in it. It's like, so if people look at it like it's a lifestyle instead of a diet or a budget, do you know what I mean? And saying everything's all right in moderation is bullshit as well, do you know what I mean? So it's like spending. It's all right in moderation. People just keep chipping away in spending. Same like eating. People go, it's all right in moderation. It's not, that. Do you know what I mean? Like you're just making excuses. So you got to be diligent in your lifestyle management. I think if you're doing you with your clients, I'm sure you say have a cheat day. You go, cheat day's bullshit. Do you know what I mean? Like if you know that you're cheating and know it's hurting, it's like spending. Save up enough and then give yourself a goal or a reward. But spending needs to be a bit longer. Do you know what I mean? You can't spend something big every week and I'm doing well.
Do you guys have any recommendations? Like I've seen a bunch of different softwares or apps and stuff out there that aid in the process of actually just putting money away, like off each purchase and stuff like that. Is that something that you guys recommend, or is there any good ones out there?
Yeah, we've got a white label app that links up with all the different banks.
Okay, cool. You guys have got one?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
We'll link that in the show notes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, people can just go to opencorp.com.au or come through you guys and come through you and we can sort that out for you.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
So coming up on 20 years next year, right?
Yeah.
OpenCorp?
Yeah, 2005 we started this. We're feeling old, man.
What do you guys, what needs to happen for you guys to continue to like evolve and I guess innovate, and how much has it changed, or is the model itself just continue to stay true to how you started and it's just continuing to evolve in other ways?
Yeah, if someone said you've got nothing, you're back to square one yourself, how would you start again? It'd be very different to the way I started building my portfolio early days. So our business itself is constantly evolving based on the way our cities are evolving. So cities used to be, and if you look at the way we've evolved as a city compared to like London, for example. So London, those sort of cities evolved where there was a little village and how far you could travel with horse and cart. Another little village popped up, and people don't travel much. They hang around their own area. It's got a little business hub with local area. We didn't do that in Australia. Like, we just had the motor car, so we ripped to the outer suburbs. And then the government realised, fuck, we can't handle this infrastructure spend.
Sprawl's too expensive, yeah.
We can't expand our cities anymore, but we want to double the size of our cities in the next X amount of years. So they're building what they're called activity centres. So you notice like mini cities popping up all over the place and high-rise apartments going up in specific areas. Mm-hmm. So we've had to change our investment strategy and for our clients, and if we're doing it ourselves, and where we're buying based on that. So the strategy in the business has evolved. Our investment strategy has evolved as time goes on, as the way our capital cities are evolving. But the business itself, I mean, we've got a good life now with a good balance of life with family, and can look after our fitness and those sort of things as well. We've got a really good team of about 80 team members who manage things really well, and, and our client nights and our community of investors is really cool. So we won't be doing anything. I don't plan on retiring anytime soon, but we could have sort of 15, 20 years ago individually ourselves. But I don't know, the satisfaction of watching, and we call it changing lives. Do you know what I mean? When we organise another property for someone, it's a life change. So
of course.
We have 3 generations of investors with investing with us now. So to see the impact you've had to people's lives is really cool. We're not solving cancer, man, but to be able to provide a better financial outcome for people is cool.
Of course. Well, yeah, that kind of led me to the next one. Like, for you both individually, what is that driving factor, as you mentioned, like from a financial and even business perspective? Like, you've had the success, it's all there, and if you really wanted to, you probably don't need to do anything. But what is the driving factor to keep showing up and keep evolving and staying in it?
Yeah, as Cam said, we're very focused on client outcomes. Like, a good friend of mine's invested with us, and I just, about 2 weeks ago, got some feedback on what his portfolio has grown by. I was only more excited for that than I am for anything I've ever done. Like, I was absolutely thrilled. Like, I rang him and we had a chat about it. But work-life balance is pretty important, like we talked about before the show. Like, I'm just back from Bali. We're both going to the snow together for a week in August.
Yep.
We've got a team in the Philippines. We're off there for a week to see them. So
cool.
We've got a pretty good balance between being in the office and driving the business, and having some free time to ourselves. And I get time to go to the gym during the day, and it's not like I'm sleeping out 8 till 6 every day. But it's enough to keep me busy, and that's probably important to me that you don't go stir crazy.
Yeah, a couple of years on the board, like just basically retired, do you know what I mean? Just chilling around, kicking around home every day with Felicity, my wife, and I fucking drove her mad, do you know what I mean? So so I've gone back in over the last 6 months as CEO again, and just revitalised. I couldn't imagine not doing it, and just loving being around team members again, and just talking property every day. So it's good. So I've experienced the retirement lifestyle, and I can't do it.
We talked at the start, like last time we did the show, or the show with you. We were all at home in COVID, I think, and we all dialed in or did on Teams or Zoom or whatever program you had. And it's only recently we're back in the office, and we've moved to Cremorne, like we talked about. And there's a few reasons for that, but one is just to bring a culture back.
Definitely.
I'd been working home for quite a while up till then, and like I didn't actually realise, like mental health wise, how much I'd missed and needed to be around people again. You don't actually realise it till you're back in it and going, shit, I've missed this so much. I didn't even know I was missing it. So it's kind
of hard as well to separate like work, family stuff, maybe training, and when you're in the one spot all the time, and it's the same environment for all of it, it becomes a bit blurry, and it all just feels the same too.
Oh, the worst thing, like I'd walk past the home office and I go, I'll just check an email, and then I go, shit, I've been sitting here for 2 hours. What the fuck am I doing? Like, don't do that. Like, it's 8 o'clock at night, you don't need to do it. But since coming in here, I haven't done it. Like, I'll go, emails can wait till tomorrow. Nothing's going to happen now. So it does absolutely separate it, spot on. Like, gives you that change in focus.
Yeah, when you get home, you're more engaged. I got 4 kids, so the kids' sports is just insane on weekends. Do you know? But you can come into work, smash it out. We had Margarita Tuesdays, which is good. So fit a bit of that amongst a bit of training, and it's a good balance.
Spicy Margarita Tuesday.
Spicy Margarita Tuesday.
Spicy. What's
good for your calories?
Yeah, exactly. But individually, for both of you, like, what are the things that you find allow you to operate like at that peak, high level kind of daily, from a personal perspective, with whether it be your training and food, intentions, whatever it may be, like? For you guys individually, what does that look like?
I absolutely need, and we talked about it before, like I'm in the gym wilderness at the moment. Like I used to have a structure and a set thing. I'd go every day to a small group training thing, was near the old office. I could get in there. But since we've moved, I'm sort of on the lookout for that. But I need a structure and a system. And if that's happening, it just sort of helps everything. Mental clarity, switch off. You don't think about anything while you're doing your gym work, and then get back on with your day. That's a big part of it for me. And I've got a long-term view that I want to get a golf handicap into single digits in my life. So
Yeah, brilliant.
That started to
What are you at the moment?
About 400. No, it's not pretty. I've just gone back to golf. I used to play a bit when I was younger, but I've sort of gone, all right, well, if I wanted to be doing that, and it's a bit like investing, if by the time I'm in my 60s, that's my time to do it, I've got to have a bit of a base and a foundation. So I'm starting to try and get a few rounds of golf in here and there at the moment too.
Beautiful.
It has to break life into 4 quadrants. So so breaking into lifestyle, what sort of lifestyle I want, family time, and health, how much time I used to spend on that, and then I'd work out how much money I need to spread across those 3 things, and that worked all right. And I'd have to sort of rewrite those every year or something like that. And then it was actually a real eye-opener at Christmas time. I was just before Chrissy, I was playing basketball and came down and collapsed a disc in my neck. So I ended up having an operation. And
dunking too hard or something?
Yeah, getting dunked on.
I was playing against Croaky. Smash, which was a real shock for me, do you know what I mean? And I got on the endones really hard, do you know what I mean, like prescribed, and I didn't realise how much of a hole I was in. But coming out of that, I just felt like shit. So I'd never had any issues with mental health in a negative sense, do you know what I mean? Like I was always positive and pumped and going for it. I just felt like shit after that. So I contacted, Collingwood, actually, the AFL club. I thought, I want to see someone who can get me out of this funk, and I look at it as a performance sort of mindset, and ended up working with one of their performance leadership teams, and fucking gave us some really good tools to use just to stay driven and stay focused. So we're actually engaging.
That was post injury.
Post injury, yeah. So working with
post endone rampage.
Which was a serious rampage. But working with Nick Maxwell from Collingwood, or Collingwood now. So, and he's coming in to do some performance work with our team as well, actually. So individually, because I find there's work performance, and then there's mental health, and then there's life goals. And as an employer, we can only supply so much. You know what I mean? And so for ourselves, just having that focus and you need someone to slap you around and keep you in check, I reckon.
What were some of those tools or the more effective things for you to really focus on coming out of like that kind of hole and getting yourself back to being back to 100%?
I'd never experienced like that, those ruminating thoughts at night time, when you're laying in bed. My wife would talk about it, and you've talked about it when you've got something worrying in your head. And just it gave us a visual on those of how you can sort of overcome sort of some of those things. So there's that making sure you're in the moment now. But the easy one was, hey, I'm thinking about something. I can't affect it in the middle of the night.
Exactly right.
So I'd write down, it's okay to feel like that because of X, but the reality is Y. And when I wake up, I'm going to fucking do Y.
Yeah.
So that got me out of that funk, do you know what I mean? That was all I needed to go like, all right, so life's back on track and the sky's blue again and away I go. So I normally operate at a pretty high level, you know what I mean? At most things I'm at, I'm pretty competitive and aggressive in business, and, just love attacking life with everything I do. But, so once I got out of that, it was away you go again, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a question for you in a second, but I've always found goals to be pretty helpful. Like if you haven't got them and you're just sort of floating around without goals, and Cam's got his different buckets he talked about there, that makes a huge difference. Like, and it's probably, I'll ask you with your clients, like, is that an important part? If they just got no goals and whatever, I'll just train because whatever, versus I want to get to this weight, or want to bench press this much, or whatever their goal is.
I think with everything, like I mentioned to you guys before, like I do a bunch of mindset coaching now as well, whether it be with body composition or literally anything in life. I think intention and getting really clear on what that intention is so important. Yeah. And we'll tie it back to with the mindset side, like think of the law of attraction, right? Yeah. Like I always say it's very similar to Facebook ads. And the reason why is, if I go into Google and I'm typing in whatever, I want to buy this black jumper, that's my intention. Yeah. And for us, we have a thing called a RAS, a reticular activation system. And basically all that is just the awareness around whatever that intention is, and we start to take note of it. So it's like when you decide you want to buy a new car, then all of a sudden every fucking second car that you see is the one that you want. Absolutely. And they've been there the whole time, but we've just never been aware of it. Yeah. And so once you have that awareness and you're actually aligning, because then it's up to you. It's like, all right, I can look at everything I'm doing and I can be completely honest with myself. Does this align with me having that outcome or does it not? And if it doesn't, then fucking bad luck. It's your own responsibility, isn't it? And so with that clear intention as well, it also creates accountability. If you come to me and you're like, I just want to get in shape, I'm like, well, what the fuck does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. And so when you have those days where you are negotiating with yourself, it's very it's much easier to not do the thing instead of doing the thing, you know? And so when you've got that clear intention as well, similar to what you guys would do with your clients, you can break it down so that it's not as big and overwhelming. And I think far too often when people set those goals, and I don't know what your opinion is on this, but they're just too logical, as in like it's just, this is kind of within reach, or I feel like I can do this. And so that's what people do, and I've been saying a lot lately. Set logical goals and take logical action. You'll keep getting logical results. But once you start thinking illogically and really overreach to an extent, there's absolutely no reason why you can't. The only reason why you haven't is because you've never allowed yourself to think you can.
Absolutely, yeah. But one of the biggest things, this is a big liner in my book, and I've got it on the fridge at home, and I drill my kids on it. You know, you only limit your imagination.
100%.
Yeah. So
100%.
So, with clients, we'll obviously work through with them, but when we talk about what their goals are, they straight away go, I want 100 grand a year passive money. You go, well, that's nice. Why do you need it?
Why? Yeah.
Why do you want it? But more importantly, if you do get it, what's the emotion you attach to that? What's life look like? Is the sky bluer? Do you know what I mean? Like that's the driving force of why someone actually does it. Money means shit. It's what it gives you. Do
you know what? A lot of clients will get to that first session, we're sitting down in front of them, we'll say, what's your goals? And they might get to that. But first of all, they say, I don't know. And our guys often go, well, here's some common ones, replace my income, or that one sounds all right. 6 months in, when they get their review after the portfolio, they've got some goals and they've all gone up in expectation, and they go, all right, I can see where this is headed now.
They really pointed on
their starting point is literally, I don't fucking know.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly right. And that's the thing. Like, even when I talked about intention before, when I'm sitting down with the client, whether it be with mindset or body stuff, I'll say, you know, what is the outcome that you want? And as you said, the only reason anyone wants anything is because of how you think you'll feel when you get it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what do you want right now? And I think the problem that people have, and it's probably the same with property, is when you decide what it is that you want and you think it's separate from where you are right now, basically what you're saying is that I'm not going to feel that way until I have this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas when you can start to go, okay, well, how can we start living like that now? So you're already feeling that way.
Absolutely.
And then you can keep building on that. And at the same time, I think you mentioned people just having no idea of what the fuck they want.
Yeah.
The thing that I found really effective is to start asking people what the fuck they don't want.
Yeah.
So I'm like, seriously. All right, well, now think of what you do not, like, worst case scenario, what do you want your life to not look like?
Yeah.
And now let's work backwards, because the shit you're doing at the moment is probably going to lead to that worst case scenario if you don't make a change.
I'll be on the pension. I'll be
eating
Vegemite sandwiches every night. Do you want that? No, I don't.
Yeah, exactly right.
What do we have to do today?
Yeah, well, like I said before,
that's scaring people into action.
Yeah, well, it's that roadmap we work out. The first roadmap we work out is, if you do nothing and just keep doing what you're doing, your superannuation will last X amount of years based on your spending, and the pension is $34,000 a year as a couple.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a long lunch, you know what I mean? Like, that's, so it's scary.
It's a long lunch.
So yeah.
Maybe for you,
few spicy margs in there. Few spicy margs in that one.
But, you know, like, the outcome, it should scare the shit out of you into action.
Yeah.
You know, the reality. But most people just chug along and just put the blinkers on and their head down, and just because everyone else is getting their head down, and just keep chugging along to the end of life, and then go, shit, I should have done something. Do you know what I mean?
One of the things I've found really effective from the financial side of setting those intentions, and this is not even probably, like, you can obviously include property in this, but I'll get people to map out to the last detail of, like, all right, what is your your financial baseline, right, per month? And so it'll be, okay, let's go through every single expense you've got at the moment.
Yeah.
But let's also add into that baseline the expenses that you would have if you're having this outcome that you actually want.
Yeah.
And so then people have got an actual figure. So even from the financial perspective, everyone's like, oh, I want more financial freedom. I want to make more cash. And I'm like, well, if you make 10 extra bucks next week, you got what you want.
Yeah.
You got what you asked for, but it's not what you actually want.
Yeah.
And so even just getting really, really clear on what that looks like as well.
But one of the main things our clients, and usually there's a passenger or driver in any relationship when it comes to, you know, driving forward in their finance. And it's like quite balanced, you know what I mean, as far as male, female goes with a lot of our clients. But the passenger always says, is this going to impact our lifestyle? You know what I mean? Usually what we find is, by just changing a couple of basic spending habits, which you don't even notice, it covers the cost of the holding costs of probably 2 to 3 properties. So people's lifestyle actually improves by holding onto a couple of properties. And then after a couple of years, those properties are positive in cash flow and you kick off. So without having that really, like, that detail outline of exactly financially what it is, then people start wake at night, like my wife did, Felicity, going, the debt level is huge. So having it really crystal clear financially in a dollar sense is really important, and then having your goals on top of that of why you're doing it and what the reasons are.
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of an investment property is there's three people paying for it. One is the tenant paying your rent. That's about 70%. The government is paying about 25% in tax breaks, and you pay about 5%. So it's like you said, it's doing some really little things. Like it's not as overwhelming and scary when people actually break the numbers down. Like, I'm only putting that much in. Yeah, you're only putting that much in. Like, but they've got to believe in the outcome, because when they sit down and talk to their wife or their husband or vice versa, and they're going, oh, I think it's expensive and I don't know, they want to be on board for the journey, because it's not that much change, but you've got to be ready to make it.
Yeah.
To get the benefit out of it.
We'll talk just quickly on that one. Sorry, dude. Where people get, I suppose, the terminology around property gets sort of scary, like things like negative gearing. Al mentioned before, like 5% the cost to hold property. Negative gearing, really simple one-on-one, is basically if you've got a property and it costs you, $50,000 to hold that property a year, and you get $40,000 in rent, and the difference is $10,000. If I'm earning $100,000, well, I can take that $10,000 off and get taxed on $90,000. So we work out all those. Work out all those figures for people. Now, a lot of people who are trying to get into the property market go, anything to do with property investing is evil. Like, negative gearing is terrible. That's the reason we've got a housing crisis. The reason why we've got negative gearing in place is because the government wanted to spread our rentals throughout our community. So they wanted to make it affordable for people to hold property and to pass on that cost savings to rent, to bring the rents down. Whereas in the US, they've got rent-controlled towers, which are ghettos. You know what I mean? So we wanted that nice sort of community lifestyle in Australia, which is why we've got negative gearing. So people sort of always knee-jerk when they hear these terminology around investing and the tax breaks and those sort of things. But you got to look at why they're in place. You know what I mean? It is because we want a better Australia than what the US have got, basically.
And the government's using property investors to provide housing and affordability for people who can't afford their own house.
Yeah.
So property investors are pretty much national heroes.
There you go. Self-proclaimed.
Yeah.
You mentioned debt before.
Yeah.
Just quickly on debt. Can you just touch on like what's good and bad debt? Like obviously we talked about credit cards and stuff before. Like that's quite clearly not great debt to have. But I mean, I think that does probably scare a lot of people hearing or thinking about how much debt, particularly when you're accumulating multiple properties. I'm assuming obviously debt just continues to go up.
People have been brought up with that concept, debt is bad, haven't they? Like that people go debt bad. But as you said, there's good debt and there's bad debt.
Leverage debt and
Oh, that's right. Well, not even leverage, but
Yeah, in the Money Smarts course I do at school, we did run this all through our clients, but I'll get the year 11 or 12 kids and run through good and bad debt. They've heard good and bad debt. It's really simple to understand what good and bad debt is. The debt is attached to something that goes up in value, or it's attached to something that goes down in value.
Yeah.
So we'll break down a property. The property's got two components. It's got a land component, it's got a building component. The building component goes over a 40-year period, reduces in value to the point where the tax office deem it worth nothing. The land is the only component that goes up in value. Now, I own medium to low-rise apartments and townhouses and houses in my own portfolio, so multiple different properties, but the building goes down in value, the land goes up. So if you look at investment property, you can't just say it's good debt. There's debt attached to one component of it. So with the kids at school, we'll go, right, well, an iPhone, you walk out of the store, is it worth less or more? It's worth, obviously less. It goes down in value. The calls, that's a liability. That's debt. You've got. Do the calls make you money or not? Is it good debt, bad debt? So if you look at everything in life as good debt, bad debt, and my kids, I'll say to them, your friends are an asset liability. Do you know what I mean? Do they make your life better, or are they shit people and make your life bad? Do you know what I mean? So making sure going back to the basics of what's good debt and bad debt, is it attached to an asset that goes up in value, or is it attached to something that goes down in value, like a car? Yeah. You know what I mean? So some of the worst advice an accountant can give, and we've got an Australian Financial Service licence, is to go and buy a tax-deductible asset like a car that goes down in value. You know what I mean? What's the point of spending fucking $1 to get 50 cents back? Do you know what I mean?
So good debt is debt against something that goes up in value?
Yeah.
And bad debt is something against something that goes down, a car, down in value. If they think of it like that, it's very, very simple.
Very simple,
Yeah.
One of the last things I was going to ask is, what are some red flags in terms of the investment properties? Like, are there maybe not like with locations, but the property type themselves? Are there certain property types where you just don't touch?
Yeah, we probably still do talk about the thing we call them novelty properties, like things that are just strangely popular at a certain time. Like For a while, there was a mining boom. Like everyone wanted to invest in a mining town.
Sorry to cut you off.
You did.
I did a bunch of health and wellness programs out in Daly Bay in Mackay.
Oh, yeah.
And just as I started out there, I think that was at the tail end of everyone just having been
smashed,
absolutely rocked after putting in a shit ton of money into properties, which just
So it's a bit like the hotspot thing. Cam talked. They were hotspots. Everyone was talking about these mining towns, but what would happen was the mine had finished. Or actually, bulk of the workers would need to set the mine up. Once it's operating, they can live on site, and it's a bit different. But the good times, the glory times would go, and people who had spent $600,000 on a house that was now worth $50,000, and with no chance of ever going back up, that's a novelty property. Like it's just ones that don't have the underlying market to support them long term. That for some reason doing something unique, we call them a novelty property, and there's things like that you'd avoid.
You have to think of the saleability. So the real wealth determined by the bank's panel's future valuation on your portfolio, if you can get your head around that. So making sure that the bank values your property at a higher level down the track gives you an increase in equity or profit, and that allows you to duplicate and grow your portfolio. So buying novelty properties, as Al said, like NDIS housing, defence housing, high-rise apartments above 10 stories in the CBD, properties that have got either really unique and therefore haven't got a big saleability, or buying something which has got infinite possibilities. Like the CBD's got a building ceiling, so an urban growth boundary that goes to the moon. They can just keep building. Do you know what I mean?
So I could probably, like we talked about before, like our model is save one deposit, do the hard works. It'd be like you've got a client who wants to cut. You can either cut hard or cut over 5 years. The longer it takes them to cut, the more chance they'll fall off the wagon. Get in as quick as you can, get your deposit, get in the market. Use the growth in your properties, and if you're buying these novelty properties or properties that don't have grounds that they're going to go up in value in the future, well, you're stuck. And Campbell knows the numbers. I don't remember exactly, but a certain percentage of people who only have one investment property and stop, and it's because they bought the wrong property and can't make it work.
It's over 90%. Yeah, but
90% of people have one.
Yeah, only buy one.
Something like 6% of all property investors have 3 or more. Like.
Okay.
Yeah, the numbers are people just don't get it right, and they can't duplicate it, and it's just buying.
It's a big expensive mistake. You stuff it up once, you don't do it again. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
So you got to get a property, as Cam said, future value, growth. You can use, pull out, duplicate, do it again. 2 growing for you, 3, 4, 5. Keep doing it.
Yeah, but it amazes me. Like when I used to have hair, I'd go to the hairdresser to get my hair cut. When you take your car to the mechanic, do it yourself unless you grew up in the country. So, but it amazes me the amount of people that go and buy a property with just no idea. Do you know what I mean? Like it's dangerous. So
And so for anyone that is listening or watching at the moment that would be keen to come in and get some advice, what's the best thing for them to do? Head to the website or reach out to you guys?
Head to the website, opencorp.com.au. Probably put a link in your...
Yeah, we'll have the links to everything in the show notes for
sure. You can come through there. And look, we've got a team. They'll sit down, have a 20-minute discussion, work out what people want to achieve, what they can achieve. If they want to go ahead with it, great. That they can meet with us, have a discussion, no obligation, no pressure. We're not into locking you in. So, no obligation discussion to work out what you can or can't do. If you want to go ahead,
the right
great.
fit for you and vice versa. And
we've got limited capacity. We can't work with everyone like yourself. Do you know what I mean? We've got limited capacity and we can't find enough good properties. We don't want a business that scales to the roof. You know, we find properties based on an individual and we go out and source that property based on the individual's needs. So it takes a lot of time. So we only want to deal with people. We've got a company mission that anyone that comes on board with us needs to be able to make a minimum of $1 million profit from the investments we provide, and we then set a time frame that they want to do it. Anyone that just wants to go and buy one property, then go and do it yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
If you're serious about investing and you want to get a measured outcome, great, we can help you out. But like you, there's limited time you've got in the week, and we've got a limited team. I mean, there might be 80 team members there, but they've all got their own function.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, fellas. Appreciate you coming back in. It was good to do it in person this time, and I definitely took a lot of value from it, and I'm sure the listeners have as well. But appreciate your time, and congrats on all the success. And
thanks, man. Thanks, mate. It's been fun again.
I'll be in for a meeting soon. We can sit down and see what I need to stop spending cash on.
Sounds good, mate.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, mate.
For everyone who's tuned into the episode today, guys, really appreciate you listening. If you haven't subscribed to the show already, please do. If you have found today's episode valuable. We'd love for you to share it with someone that you're close with, or take a screenshot, post it on your Instagram story, tag us. As I said, I'll have the links to all of OpenCorp's website and contact details and everything in the show notes below. But appreciate you guys tuning in and hope you have a great day.